Listen to this one, guys. We're just gonna do the first minute of this one, and guys, we want to hear your thought and perspective. This video shows that there's been some really shady stuff happen online, and this is a video on my channel, by the way. You can check it out. It's 18 minutes long. I'm not gonna do a whole 18 minutes here because we gotta get to this debate after this. So this video, oh, we have JP and then the debate. This video shows exactly some of the things we're talking about with social media censorship and removing people's content, what they agree and disagree with. And I think this video is gonna shine a spotlight on what is happening. And again, I want to say, first of all, this is not a new knowledge. It's not a new knowledge for me. It is confirmed, but I knew this already. I knew it. I knew it was happening to my channel and many other channels, especially Black conservative. Any conservative channels, actually, they seem to had an issue with that. Okay, so that's another thing. So take a listen to this.
We thanks so much for coming on. This seems like a really important story, which is for some reason being ignored. Do we get the outlines right? The administration is working with the tech companies to censor people.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Tucker, we looked at really hundreds of documents that paint a vivid picture of the FBI, the DHS, closely collaborating with the top social media platforms, Twitter and Facebook, to censor various forms of content under the banner of fighting disinformation. And the story shows a couple of things. One, it shows what you just mentioned, a very cozy relationship between the government and these tech giants. There's those monthly meetings that you just mentioned, but also just very cozy emails and texts. Not a very adversarial relationship. You know, we looked at one text where Microsoft executive texts Jen Easterly, the top disinfo director at DHS appointed by Biden, basically saying the government needs to get, the private sector needs to get more comfortable with the government. They're closely collaborating on reports talking about the expanded role for DHS in censoring a really broad collection of topic areas, of policy and political topics. And, you know, just broadly speaking, the story also just looks at the mission creep of DHS. This is an agency that was founded in the aftermath of 9/11 to combat foreign terror threats of Al-Qaeda and the like. But over the last 5 years, it's kind of evolved in its mission. It's moved towards fighting disinfo, and their justification is, you know, disinformation radicalizes the homeland. It can lead to disruptions in public health or in political violence. So they have a justification. We have these documents, and they're pushing forward with this broad censorship agenda.
A man by the name of Dr. Shiva Ayadora discovered something shocking.
Before we move on to the next part of this video, are you hearing what's happening here?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Like, this is all due to what was set out in the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was supposed to be a temporary piece of legislation. It wasn't supposed to be a permanent piece of legislation.
Yeah.
It needs to be revoked.
You know what? You also right, because this came about after 9/11 under the heading of dealing with, you know, those terrorists. And they needed to somewhat have a much closer observation with the NSA and so on. And then here comes Eric Snowden exposing what was going on. And for most of us, we were like, yo, that is crazy. We can't believe this is happening. And the man had to flee to Russia. I eventually heard that he just got his citizenship from Russia now after all these years and so on. And we messed up his entire life because he exposed the wickedness of the NSA and what these people were doing, spying on American people. So in other words, you had a system put in place under the Patriot Act to supposedly help Americans. And when this stuff is all over, you still have that system in place. What do you do with it? Well, you can't use it against your enemies so much. You start to use it against your own people.
Yeah.
So this is how they end up using Facebook and the rest of these so-called social media platforms to carry out their dirty deeds. So in essence, these guys have a backdoor to these platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy business, man.
It's dirty business. Like, and that's the thing is it's like WikiLeaks just had a major dump. Like, somebody hit a dead man switch.
Oh.
I
Really?
don't know all of what was contained in the dump, but there was a huge, massive information dump from WikiLeaks.
You know,
So that kind of makes me wonder is like what all got. I haven't looked into it yet, so
mhm.
that's something I need to look into.
I myself need to check that out because that's very interesting to me, especially when we
And I'm
trying to.
wondering if this was part of it.
Yeah, this stuff is concerning to me because if we don't push back against this narrative, we're not even going to be able to speak what we're talking about right now. Like, this is your freedom of speech is under attack. And if your freedom of speech is gone, so goes your freedom of assembly, your
Hmm.
freedom of religion, right? The right to
Right to
express
bear
yourself,
arms.
right to bear arm. Everything goes. It's like if we don't protect free speech, like we are in serious trouble. Like Matt Walsh did earlier when we were talking, and I think he made a good point. And I'm trying to say it before. There are these people out there who are like, we need to protect hate speech. We need to stop people from bullying people and saying thing about this and about that, right? And they're using the social media platform to somewhat curtail and regulate speech that they do not agree with. But now here's the thing. How come the rappers get to speak freely about whatever they want and put a beep to it, even though there are serious results happening? That gets ignored. That doesn't make become part of the conversation. We don't hear this as part of the political issue in which that needs to be addressed in the country. But we go after YouTubers. They go after the basic the average person. I get chased after this stuff. Like
Yeah,
me, like I got
exactly.
like listen, I am not even known in the world of YouTube. I have 26,000 subscribers. We have people that have million to 10 million subscribers. I mean, like we have Joe Rogan with 12 something million subscribers. Like you want to talk about people who are saying something. Like I'm the least of your concern. Like if
Hmm.
you're worrying about a guy who's going to get like probably 300 views per video on average. Like really? Like that's your concern? So you going after these individuals who controlling their speech and others and celebrities and rappers who are saying all kind of nonsense. Their speech
But
don't
see,
get canceled.
the problem is this is the start of something. Your
Mm.
channel is this is where it starts. This is how it starts, and this is how it builds, and this is how you grow momentum in that arena.
Hmm. So it's kind of nip it in the bud kind of thing.
Exactly. Stop it before it starts.
Yeah. But it's the same people who say this will support other channels that are doing the exact thing that they're trying to oppose.
Yeah,
The same Twitter platform.
you cut out.
Yeah, sorry. The same Twitter platform who says we need to protect hate speech. They have terrorists on their website
Hmm.
on Twitter. They have porn on Twitter. And that's not a problem. So it's like, okay, make it make sense. So
Yeah,
this stuff
you,
is
you
really
can't
it's
you can't make
politically.
it make sense.
It doesn't because it's politically motivated.
Like,
It
I
is.
mean, you try to make it make sense, and like the more you try to make it make sense, the less it does.
Yeah. Like we have a bunch of there we go. We have some we're talking about porn on and they pop up all over the place on much in the room right now. So I'm trying to
And
get rid of it.
Andrea, Andrea makes a good point in that an old saying goes, when you don't stand for something and you don't stand up for others' rights, and they come for you, you'll be the one saying, "Where's everybody to stand up for me?"
Yeah. Yeah. So there we go. So all freedom will be taken away one by one. Yeah. I was
And
telling a coworker who
that's
said,
exactly the type of government our forefathers warned us about.
you have to fight against this stuff. The thing is, as a minister, part of my concern is as a Christian. Part of our thing is we have to preach the gospel. Part of the gospel is we have to expose evil and elevate God. And part of elevating God is that you kind of have to offend other religion. You have to offend communities. you have to offend some individuals. And
I
if you
don't
do not offend them, they will never be led to a place where they can accept the truth of the gospel, right?
personally, I don't believe there's any such thing as hate speech. I just think there's speech that people hate.
That's Tom McDonald's for you. There's a difference between hate speech and speech that you hate. So it's like, if people cannot speak their views and they cannot share their perspective on things, they might as well don't even have one. And I like how what was his name? Dr. Steve, his name was. I follow him online too. He was saying, if you control somebody's speech, you're controlling somebody's thoughts,
Hmm.
because thoughts are made of words. So in essence, when you delete somebody's speech online for whatever the reason may be, you are saying that their thoughts don't matter.
Yep.
And there's something about the human spirit. When they are told that they cannot say or cannot think or cannot have their own perspective, it creates serious problems. The thing is, for when you study history, even the Protestant Reformation, like the reason there was a Protestant Reformation is because not the early church, the church in the Dark Ages, the Catholic Church system was using political power to control the speech of Protestants or anybody who did not agree with the church. This is why in the 1500, the princes of spires in Germany came together and said, enough is enough. We are going to protest against the abuses of the church. Martin Luther, John Calvin, Wesley, and all these guys, they all came together into this melting spot. The goal was to protect free speech. The goal was for people to have a different view than what the church was proposing. It's the same thing we're fighting now. It's from a
Hmm.
different format, from a different angle. It's like, I can't even be a Christian. I can even preach to you if I don't have the ability to do so. And these people are looking to play around with this one thing that should not be touched. This is one dice you don't touch. And when they
It's
start playing with this, we don't even have a right to share the gospel.
it's like someone once said, the First Amendment is first for a reason. The second is there in case the first doesn't work.
What? Yeah, that was who was it that said that? That was Dave Chappelle. Yeah, I'm gonna let them continue here. Okay, we're gonna take a few minutes of this and then we'll pause and move on.
Shiva Ayadora.
Broad censorship
A
agenda.
man by the name of Dr. Shiva Ayadora discovered something shocking. Dr. Ayadore is no slouch when it comes to technology. He's the man that actually invented email. So he's the reason I spent half of my day in my computer, because this guy, he invented email. According to the Gateway Pundit, over the summer, this good doctor that created email discovered something shocking, something buried inside of Twitter called the Partner Support Portal. Now, what he found was a special portal that offered certain government entities like the Department of Homeland Security or the CIA special access to Twitter. Now, what do I mean by that? They could actually, with this special access portal, they could flag and delete ask them to delete content basically for any reason they liked. If they disliked it, they could go into their special access portal because they're the Department of Homeland Security, they're the CIA, they're another government entity. It didn't even have to be at the federal level. It could be at the state level. And they could delete content. Tell Twitter, delete this. We don't want this. We don't like this person's tweet. Get rid of it. Deplatform this person. Twitter called it their Twitter partner status. It's way better than having a blue check verified account, because this was direct access to Twitter to let them know that, what to post or delete what they deem inappropriate and what should be flagged, what should be censored, etc. So this is a big deal. And why haven't we heard a lot about this? I don't remember hearing anything about this. A few dispatches in early 2020 about this as it related to the election. But other than that, nothing. I mean, so then this doctor decides to run for the U.S. Senate in Massachusetts, and as a Republican. Now, he was being censored on Twitter. So he made allegations of voter fraud, and he tweeted about this fraud on Twitter. But you wouldn't know it because then his tweets were deleted and removed after the government took them down. Yes, his tweets were deleted at the direction of the government employees of the Massachusetts Secretary of State's office. Hey, go into that Twitter portal and take this guy's tweets down. He's a political opponent, and we don't like what he's saying. So take them down. Unbelievable. Like, this is happening in the United States. So discovering this, then, Dr. Ayyadurai filed a federal lawsuit by himself, alleging that his federal rights were violated when the government silenced his political speech in order to affect an election. And that's where it sits. So it sits there now, right?
Again, Michael Cohen, he went to jail for this, like for hiding information that would have been unfavorable to Trump. And then this is happening to Republican candidates. Like, we literally try to impeach the president for this. And this, okay.
And it's not just this one political, it's not just one Republican candidate, because you'll learn later in this Intercept story, it's more than that. And the only reason we even learn about this information is because of lawsuits filed because of these Republican candidates. So, yeah, they deleted his stuff. And he files this federal civil rights lawsuit, says his federal rights were violated when the government silenced his political speech in order to affect an election. I mean, does it get any bigger than this? An election was faked because they deleted information about this candidate, suppressed his content, kept him quiet in order to promote another candidate. So,
I mean, okay. The FBI literally went out of their way to say that what Hillary Clinton did with her email server was bad but not actionable, just a poor judgment. But they did it at a time because they did not want to affect the election by indicting her, but they affected it anyway by talking about it. Like, we know now there should not be government intervention in any election, and yet it's still this. Like, this is worse than anything that we've been fighting over around Hillary and Michael Cohen and Trump, and that's much worse. Go ahead.
And it's bigger than this, because what they also did is they padded the following numbers of the left and made them look like they were bigger than they were. They suppressed the following counts of conservatives, and what they did is they made the left look more popular. They promoted what they were saying and completely deleted what the conservatives were saying. So that, in essence, could overturn an election, because when people go onto Twitter, they don't know, but they're seeing more information from the left. It's like, oh, I got to pick the side that's winning. So they falsely made it look like they were winning every conversation when actually the other side was just being suppressed. So it's even bigger than one person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is bigger than one person. It's a whole machine. And that's what's so sad about this story. So, again, Twitter has a special portal where the government bureaucrats can censor content they don't like, but it gets much worse. So over the past 48 hours, investigative journalists Lee Fang and Ken Klippenstein released a report at The Intercept that is arguably just as bad as what Edward Snowden found at the NSA. And I would maybe even argue worse. Their report is called Truth Cops. It's an amazing piece, and I encourage all of you to read this report in depth from these two investigative reporters, Lee Fang and Ken Klippenstein. And what their reporting shows is how the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Department of Justice, Democratic operatives, and business elites were working directly with Facebook to silence voices, silent content that they didn't like. So let's go through some of the key points in this piece, because it's astonishing. And by the way, the only reason
I just want to say,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I agree with you fully that this is worse, because with the NSA, they were just taking our data. They were taking it. Yes, they were housing it, but they weren't really taking anything of ours down. Now they're actively going and deleting our speech and taking things off the internet. So this is much worse, in my opinion. As well.
And affecting elections.
And removing conversations as well. So basically, in this open platform, this town square where we could have debate and discussion and all of that kind of the coffee shop debates, they're saying these debates are allowed and these people should be rounded up and taken out of here.
So let's go through some of the points here. And by the way, the only reason we know this, in addition to their reporting, is the fact that a separate lawsuit was filed in the state of Missouri, Senate candidate Eric Schmidt filing a lawsuit on his censorship. And that's where we get some of this remarkable information on the Facebook side of things. So they have this special portal in much the same way that Twitter has a special access portal. So too does Facebook. And it says in the piece, there's a formalized process for government officials to directly flag content on Facebook or Instagram and request that it be throttled or suppressed through a special Facebook portal that requires a government or law enforcement email to use.
So you can go to this. I did today, facebook.com/xtakedowns/login.
And here it is. We have a screenshot of it. Here's the Facebook portal.
And, you know,
there it
you
is.
can get in. You can request access with a government email address. I don't have one, so I was not put in, and I would be scared to go in there.
DOJ, yeah. If you have like Natalie at DOJ.gov, you might be able to get access to it.
Yeah,
isn't that amazing?
I didn't
Facebook
try.
builds a secret backdoor, secret portal, and so does Twitter, where you can access this information. So I mean, it's remarkable. Now, Li Fang.
Boy, where do we go from here?
So does anybody know Hillary Clinton's email address?
I wonder if she has access to.
Oh, I'm sure she does. And that's the thing is, if they have this on Twitter, they have this on Facebook, you know they've got to have it on YouTube too.
Of course. Absolutely. And I think YouTube is being used by some of these people. Because you have to look at it like this, because
where do you think all these copyright claims come from? And how they're getting up so quick?
Yeah, and these guidelines are changing consistently. You can't even keep up with them. You know?
Like it's virtually impossible.
Yes. You don't know what they're going to strike you for. You have no idea.
And they don't tell you.
No.
When you try to find out, it's like, well, you got to strike. You're just going to have to suffer.
It's true. I got 2 strikes that I got no explanation for. I'm still trying to understand why I was striked. But I'll tell you what. The thing about the truth is that you can oppress it, suppress it, dumb it down. Eventually, it sticks out its ugly head. It's like, that's what I've learned about truth, is that you can hide it for a period of time, but it's not going away. I've heard, what was that quotation? I think somebody says, it's like the truth is like the sun. You can cover it for a period of time, but eventually, it's not going away.
It's going to rise.
It's going to rise back. So some of these people, they think they can do what they do in secret as if the light is not going to shine on them. And I think another thing that a lot of people make a mistake about, again, and I think it's warning for all of us too. God knows all. God sees all. You see, if you're doing something evil and for some reason you haven't been exposed, you haven't gotten caught.
You cut out.
My mic just, it does this on its own. I don't know why. It is because mercy is giving you a second chance. That's simply what it is. Mercy lingers with us so that we can clean up and we don't get embarrassed. It's not because we are good. It's because God is good. Here is the thing.
That opportunity to course correct.
Absolutely. And we oftentimes confuse God's mercy with his righteousness, with his justice. Sometimes we think the reason I can do this is because I can outdo the system. I'm smarter than the rest of them, or I just can't get caught. You are mistaken, my friend. Here is the thing. I love this. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight. For all things are naked and open unto the eye of him in whom we have to do. So some of these people think they can do what they do as if nobody's watching. Even when nobody's watching, God is watching. And every now and then he says, okay, enough. Let that stuff be exposed. I eventually saw an article that just came out 2 days ago. I don't want to use, I'm going to use some symbols here because the powers that be, the gatekeepers. They say that all the regulation that happened under the C, the Pestilence 19, now they are coming out saying that it was all a big mistake. We just didn't know. We didn't have all the facts with us. That's why we did what we did.
Mm-hmm.
So, in essence, they are admitting closing schools, shutting down businesses, and all the regulation that were passed. And people were protesting, crying, "This is wrong." We called them names. We said they were stupid. We said they were crazy. We said they didn't understand because we're trying to save the world. The echo is happening. So sorry. So, okay, got it. So we called them all these names. And now they came back and say, we want amnesty. We want forgiveness. Let's all forgive each other for what happened during Pestilence 19 and all the regulation and mandates that were passed because we just didn't know. What do you mean you didn't know? All the people that were crying and speaking against this, all the people that were speaking out saying, this is wrong. The way you're going about this, the way we are treating people who lost their jobs because they did not go along with the syringe. You say they were crazy. Now your truth is falling apart because eventually a lie can only stand for so long. The truth, the truth is rising to the surface. You know what? He said, guys, let's all forgive each other. Let's forget about this. This was one big mistake. And
Oops,
yet,
our bad.
really? Like, sorry. I mean, we had to bury our family members here. Some of us lost our jobs.
And we couldn't visit them in the hospital when they passed away.
No, we could not. We were not allowed to. We were separated from our loved ones. You did this for 2 long years. When we were protesting, you strike our channels. We had to go on Rumble. We had to go on BitChute. We had to go all these different places. Truth Social so we can speak our views. We were not allowed to speak. You did not welcome another perspective. And now you want forgiveness? Now, don't get me wrong. God says we should forgive. That's not the forgiveness of the Bible. To forgive this wickedness and not address the root of this is only going to create more of this type of stuff. Like that, we can't accept that ever again.
Mm-mm.
And I know recently at my job they were coming out saying we have the flu vaccine now, and I said, get away from me. You are not poking me with another needle till the day I die.
Nope.
y'all done messed me up, lied to me, tricked and deceived me, make me feel guilty, and when I tried to speak out against it, I came out with a video. The video was struck down within 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
That video had 20,000 views within the span of 3 days. I don't have that on my channel ever.
Yeah.
And the video was his exposure. I still have it on my phone. I'm gonna put it on my Rumble channel now. I think it's ready because I came out and I spoke about what I saw with these eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, they struck it down. YouTube struck it down. Facebook struck it down. That video made it all the way to Israel. There were other channels that were playing it. In Egypt, they were playing the video. They were. I was, I was known as the nursing home whistleblower. But now, all of a sudden, you want to come back and talk about please forgive us. Oh, give us a break.
I got something you can forgive, and it's really hairy.
Go ahead.
And I use it as a big cushion to sit down when I'm watching videos.
I like how you put that.